Welcome to a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda.
Good morning. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning and welcome to the February 23rd Lorain County Board of Commissioners meeting. Mr. Williams, you have the dog?
Yes. Okay, we have a one-year-old Shepherd mix here, found on February 17th over by Lorain Community College. Going to go up for adoption. Yep, I must try to get my candy bars. But very loving dog here, very friendly. I know everyone here wants to take them home, but you can come to the kennel, see them at 3 o'clock on Saturday, and take this nice guy home with you. Very calm, very relaxed. So even if you're not going to adopt them, come out to the kennel, take a look at all the other wonderful dogs. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Let's see. 945 Keith Bailey and Book Recycling and Collection Center, unless you'd like to do that now.
Yeah, you want to come up now, Keith? We'll start that.
I told you I'd bring you a new one today.
Yep.
As of April 1st, we'll start recycling books, all right? We want end-of-life books. I don't want to compete with Goodwill or any of the places that resell books, but end-of-life books, there'll be two different types. There'll be the softbacks and the hardbounds, all right? And we plan on recycling them and send them to a binder starting April 1st, and we'll start recycling books, all right?
End of life? Is that what you
End
said?
of life books.
Okay.
Phone books.
People,
Yeah, just for the record, so Keith said it pretty clear, because we did discuss this. These are not gonna go to Haiti or any place else. These are gonna be debound and disposed of, so, or recycled, actually.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't want folks thinking that we're packing them up and they're getting a second life. This will definitely be the end of the road.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to say it again, we're not competing with any of the
Nonprofits.
organizations that do
Right.
use books a second, a third, or a fourth time for the community. In fact, if they have worn-out materials, we can probably do some group
Right.
arrangements with them to receive their depleted materials.
and is it going to be a revenue generator in
It
some
will
way?
generate some revenue, all right?
Okay.
And it'll improve our efficiencies of our people and allow us to get more out of our labor force, all right?
Bookdestruction.com. I like that.
Keith, are we gonna pull the, we're gonna put a trailer in the front there, is that what?
No, they'll be picking up the loads as we accumulate. We'll accumulate 44 gaylords of each product, rack them in our racks, and when we get enough for a load, we'll call the book debinders and they'll come pick them up.
Just pick them up from the loading dock back there?
Yep.
Great.
All right.
Can you give the address one more time for people?
What's that?
With the address where they can drop them off.
540 South Abbey Road at the Collection Center. Monday from noon to 6, Wednesday noon to 6, and Saturday 9 to 6, all right?
Okay.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.
Keep
Nice.
coming up with new ideas, we love that.
Madam Clerk?
All right, under resolutions, number one, job and family services bills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Investments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I have one on 1 of 6, the restore the salaries and a PERS funding to the Board of Elections. I was wondering if we had any more details on that. Is it to the 2010 level?
Sure, what it was, Tom, we can help you out. We put in, when we did the budget for 2011, those departments who went to the 8-hour workday, 8-hour paid, would get restored to the 2010 budget. This is probably about 9 months of funding for the Board of Elections, because it took them a couple months.
It's prorated.
It's prorated on the 9 months that they're gonna be doing it, or 9.5 months.
Right, I think the original budget was passed, that indicated there'd be a 5% reduction for those agencies that didn't achieve an 8-hour worked, 8-hour paid.
Which is a 13% increased productivity.
And you did take that 5% from those agencies until they could verify that they had achieved those outcomes, and then you said you would give the 5% back.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
No advances, no repayments, requisitions.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, and requisitions, 473-11. I was just wondering, we had a criteria. This is the one where we're giving $500 to an organization. Do we have a criteria for other organizations to get funding? This is $500 that's coming out
That's
of
the
the general
Hispanic
fund.
Council.
Right.
That is funds that come out of half from the solid waste.
And half from community development, I believe. Correct?
Correct.
It's $250 from solid waste advertising budget, and we have a small advertising budget for community development, economic development matters that we've taken those funds from. And those are the discretionary choices by the commissioners from those line items.
Yeah. Do we have a criteria, though, for organizations? I know there's a lot of good organizations out there. I'm just wondering what the criteria is. I haven't seen that.
What do you mean by criteria?
Well, if you have another organization that wants to come up to get funding, what do they have to meet? How do they get approval on that? I know we say it, but how are you basing your decisions off it?
Most of it's probably based, I mean, we don't have anything in writing, an SOP of any sort, but most of it in the past has been anything that generates economic development or advertising or economic development to certain organizations. We do this with the Hispanic Fund. I mean, there's only a few of them that we do it to, but they do economic development issues and job creation, and the solid waste is also part of that because of our revolving loan fund up there, so we use it as a general practice. Who else do we have? Don, you're new. Who else are we? Hispanic Fund. There's only 3 or 4.
Well, actually, it's a pretty good question. We've really declined on the amount of organizations over the last few years that we've supported. We've supported agencies from Leadership Lorain County to the Urban League to El Centro, various activities that the commissioners have deemed worthy to support, and also had some ability to spread the word about various programming that the board was doing. Solid Waste is under a mandate to do a lot of advertising, and obviously we're aware of the critical nature of billboard advertising so we decreased a lot of those activities, and obviously we decreased the bus activity because they're not rolling a lot and we don't have the rolling billboards, and you move more into a few of these things. To answer Mr. Williams' question more clearly is that we've never developed a real protocol with regard to these agencies, and it was on a as topic basis when it came up, Commissioner.
Okay. Yeah, and my only concern is I get emails all the time from organizations asking for money, and my response is we have no money. So,
But what you should do, Tom, then, is you get those is forward them up through the administrator and then the board, and then we can look at each and every one as to what pursuits they're following, and if it fits or doesn't fit into either the solid waste or the economic development. We all get a lot of those, always
Okay.
being asked for money.
Right.
exactly. And then the 480-11, just wanted to bring this up. I'm seeing a lot of requests for copy services from different, this one's for, I believe, Family Services. And just wondering, we have a new purchasing coordinator. Do you know, Jim, if she's working on getting with the various departments to try to get one contract so we're not using multiple suppliers to reduce costs?
Absolutely. We haven't started that priority with her, but we did have an initiative that I think is still going forward. We closed the Office Services Division because we made a analysis department a few years ago that we could gain efficiency by outsourcing, and then it became critical a year ago to do that. The problem we had 3 years ago was that we were in long-term leases on our equipment that didn't make it cost-effective to shut the department, even though we knew the department was running at a level that was basically could have saved us $200,000 or $300,000 a year. But once those 5-year leases were entered into, the board had to see them to the end. Last year, we ended a lot of the leases. In fact, we had some equipment that didn't end until just this month, but it still was reached a point where it became cost-effective to close the department, and we broke even for a few months and then got into the black a few months later. In the fall, we had Ms. Hobart go out with an RFP for printing services for the various things that we do, envelopes and letterhead, different sort of documents in purchasing and travel and so forth. And we received quotes back. Now, the commissioners are all operating underneath that RFP and those contracts for specific print services, and they are available to the other departments should they want to join with us. Again, we can influence.
Right.
But we can't mandate that they do that. But we have done that for the things that are under our direct control.
And we have the coordinator reaching out to this new coordinator reaching out to the various departments.
I wish I could tell you yes. She's pretty new.
Okay.
She's doing a really pretty great job. But I
Yeah.
think she's just learning the way around the hallway.
Yeah, I know. She's going to a meeting with the sheriff today. So.
Yeah. But I'm anticipating that while we have somebody on point, we'll have a more active voice in making those objectives known.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Travel?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Bills?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Under the airport, adopt the minimum standards for airport aeronautical services at the airport.
Mr. Cordez, probably towards you right now. The airport minimum standards.
Oh, thank you. I was reading something else.
Okay.
I apologize. We have to do this every year. We developed minimum standards about 3 years ago for fees. It's more an SOP with regard to the services and how people operate and perform not only the things that they do for us, but how their conduct should be with regard to hangars and storage and the types of activities that can go on. Every year the plan calls for a review and an update. Ms. Davis and myself looked over the plan. We didn't see any need for changes, but we have to have that annual review. So we're recommending that we continue with the standard procedures that we've submitted.
And this was in response to cutting general fund allocation to the airport as much as possible, where the users are paying additional fees out there to help offset the cost.
The users are paying additional fees. We've had a little bit of struggle with a couple of those, and we've worked on them. And I'm happy to tell you we're growing corn even on the roof to raise some money. So we've done everything possible, and I don't think at this point that we can squeeze any additional fees out of the users at the airport. We're struggling right now to figure out how to maintain the taxiways and things like that they're in pretty bad condition. There hasn't been a capital investment in some time out there, and I do believe that while it didn't start out as a happy group, I believe the users at the airport are trying to be very productive with us and work with us on achieving better outcomes for the airport.
Tom, for your information, farming, he wasn't kidding, is one of
Yeah,
our
I know.
largest revenue generators at the airport. So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Under the Commissioners, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on summary sheet for employees within jurisdiction of Lorain County Commissioners.
Mr. Cordez?
Thank you, Commissioner. I would like to request an executive session at the conclusion of our regular board meeting today to specifically talk about a potential hire at the county home and our ongoing, which I think will be ongoing for quite a while, in various departments, union negotiations. I did receive a call from one of our representatives with regards to the United Auto Workers contract, but I wasn't able to talk to her this morning, so in the short period between the executive session, I'll probably call her and see and get an update for you. So those two topics are allowable under the Sunshine Law for executive session. Thank you.
Approve and waive the reading of the same for the County Commissioners meeting minutes of February 19th and 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Approve a personal information policy in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 1347.05.
Mr. Innes, do you want to comment on what this was? I know your office was working on it.
Right, this is just kind of goes hand in hand with the public records policy, which is you have to have a policy in place that establishes how you're going to organize and release records for public release. The counter to that is you have to have a system in there that shows how you're going to take care of protecting confidential information like health information, Social Security information. A lot of these have been informal, but technically we're supposed to have a formal policy in place.
Yeah, I met with Teresa on this. She talked about doing all the redacting, so also move.
Second. This is basically a privacy policy, correct? It's to
Right,
protect
that's about what
the
it is,
employees.
yeah.
Teresa, you're going to be the custodian, right?
I am now, so.
Okay.
I guess
Well,
I
you're the
am
record
budget.
custodian, and you're also doing the PIP too?
So
I think
lucky.
that was the
Yes.
recommendation. Okay. The
If
PIP.
that's the pleasure of the board.
Makes me happy.
Fine with me.
Congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
There's no pay increase with that, though.
Well, okay. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Appoint Jim Toole as Lorain County's Apiary Inspector for the year 2011. Total annual appropriation is $3,400 with mileage reimbursement of 51 cents per mile.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, on the 51 cents per mile, we talked about that before, about possibly reducing that since the employees do get the reimbursement from the federal government. I would like to bring that back up as far as reducing the reimbursement to 37 cents a mile.
Okay.
Well, I can, I actually had some phone calls from Job and Family Services. They said if we were to do that, since they don't have vehicles or one or two, a lot of their employees, social workers who do the actually house visits and stuff,
Right.
who are making $11 an hour or $12 an hour would have a hard time doing that, and they would have to find an appropriation for more vehicles.
Well, what we could take a look at is, I've had my assistant going down looking at the parking garage, the county vehicles. Over the last week, we've only used 4 vehicles, so we have everything else sitting there.
Well, this is under Job and Family Services. This is
Well.
the State Department, Tom?
Right, but we can't utilize the county vehicles for them, having them go show up at the job site and then taking a county vehicle.
That, Jim? That was the only one that came up really as a,
Everything's possible.
Okay, I like that.
It depends on the structure. You're both right, and I hate being in a situation where 2 or 3 people are right and there's really no wrong. The fleet vehicles are housed here. I'm actually surprised you said there was only 4 vehicles out this week. I need to check that because some weeks we haven't had enough vehicles. I'm just surprised. In fact, our Children and Family First Council, I met with her because they've been using the vehicle a lot, and they were keeping it over at the building, and there was some concern. Could they use our vehicles and we get reimbursed? The answer is yes. Do we have the ability right now to do that? The answer is no. So we would have to locate some fleet vehicles out there because clearly the deadhead to and fro to pick up a county vehicle would eliminate any efficiencies that we could find in using fleet vehicles. Could we locate a couple of fleet vehicles out by Job and Family Services? Yes. I do need to point out that we don't have a secure lot there, and again, I don't like looking like I'm negative to either side of an issue. But it was in November that they jacked up our county car over there and stole 4 tires off it, and then cut the catalytic converter off another time, and broke into the van
Right, I've got
one
pictures
time.
of that. Actually, a constituent sent me the pictures of the vehicle that had all the tires off and it was jacked up in our parking lot.
Now, could we deal with that? I'm sure we could find a way of dealing with that also. So we would have to make sure that in the cost recovery plan that we do every year, that we would generate information with regard to the vehicle use, and it would probably be about 2 years before we saw the return on that, remembering our indirect cost survey's done, and then the year after we bill. So we're usually on a cycle that's about 2 years behind what they owe us with regard to cost recovery. One of the things we've done in the last 3 or 4 years, we've tried to move more clearly into a direct cost recovery. Now, I'm making this sound overly complicated, I don't mean to. Could we do a direct cost recovery on the vehicles with Job and Family Services? That I don't know. The potential may be there, and I could discuss that obviously with Mary Lou with regard to recovery on those on a contractual basis, which will give us real-time cost recovery. So there's a couple of questions there, but I think either one of these things has some merit.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'm looking at is at 37 cents. Again, I'll go back. You're getting reimbursement. If your car gets 14 miles per gallon, it comes out to 28 cents. You're getting an additional 9 cents per mile. The reimbursement is really only to cover your cost, and then they would get the tax rebate from the federal government for the remaining amount. So it does save us money, and the employees are reimbursed for it. So I would still like to go through with that, have that reduced. I think 51 cents a mile isn't in, well, it's just not done in the private sector, and I know it's not done in the public sector and local governments as well. So most of those are between 36 to 41 cents.
Right. Like I said, we were looking for more information on it.
Yeah.
Jim, do you want to go and contact Job and Family Service? Even though it isn't our direct money, they would fall underneath our policy, correct? Because the state reimburses their employees for.
Job and Family Services does mirror what we do here. Again, you can have a specific policy depending on the circumstances. Be mindful that the Apiary contract is a separate freestanding contract. You can do anything you want with that too, and the current county policy that's under discussion and review has no bearing on this contract here. So you're free to do what you want with this one while we explore the possibilities.
Actually, I tried to call Lisa this morning, and she was on her phone to ask how much reimbursement the apiary inspector actually turns in.
Last year it was like $300.
$300.
Only because he was hurt on the job.
The-
Normally it's
Original
more.
job.
Oh,
Sometimes
were you talking about
on the
specific
appropriations.
salary or specific fuel reimbursement, travel
No,
reimbursement?
that was like total all year.
Hey, I thought we were at the minimum funding level for the contract.
We are. We did that a few years back.
Right. But again, this is a freestanding contract, so you can basically do what you want with that. With regard to Job and Family Service, I can certainly have the discussion. Ms. Koski's on a much-deserved vacation until the week after next, but when she comes back, we can sit down and talk about those vehicle issues.
Is there a way to classify under travel with your own vehicle under just general fund expenditures? Or is that not?
Could you redefine the question, please? I don't think I
If we were
understood.
going to lower the rate, which our concern is reducing our general fund expenditures.
Okay.
If we were to make the language just out of general fund reimbursement at the 37 cents or whatever Commissioner Williams is leaning towards, would that then, we wouldn't have to worry about the reimbursement that Job and Family Services gives? Because that's state reimbursement, it's not.
No,
Is there a?
I think that they're being co-appointing, and the contracting authority for Job and Family Service, I think, places the requirement for a travel policy for ODJS, at least the local ODJS, clearly under the Board of Commissioners. And I don't believe that you can pass a policy with regard to all general fund departments. It is my understanding that individual appointing authorities can develop their own travel policy, or have.
To you, Jerry.
Right, but I think the commissioner's question was, could we have a different policy for departments funded with general funds and those with some other funding? And I think the
Correct,
answer
that
to
was my
that,
question.
Okay, I
I
misunderstood.
think that can be done, yes.
So we could do a policy, anything that receives general fund dollars would be at a lower rate.
No, I think I answered correctly the way you're saying it. I don't think that you can, I think each general fund appointing authority.
Well, it may be that the individual appointing authorities do something differently, but as far as anything within the control of the commissioners, you can establish different reimbursement levels for general fund and special funds.
So they could be separate. Job and Family Services could be at the current rate of 51 cents.
If you pass it that way.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right, when you
Passing
keep
it that
saying
way
general
is-
fund department, I get, as long as they're talking about the ones under the commissioner's control, my answer is yes. If you're talking about all the general fund, then my answer is probably not.
Well, like, are you saying like the auditor, treasurer, they could
I-
have their
I-
own travel policy?
I think in the past that they've followed us pretty much, but they have developed their own travel policies in some regards that are filed with the auditor's office. I see Craig is here. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Craig, but I think that's accurate, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we gotta bring you up, Craig.
While he's walking up, does the travel policy have any impact on our bargaining contracts? If you're changing the wages of an employee?
No,
No.
no.
Hi, Craig. Good morning.
Good morning,
Good
Craig.
morning. I think Jim is pretty accurate with what he is stating. A number of years ago, this was established actually through the state auditor's office, that each department can and does establish its own policies. If they do not file a new policy or policy of their own, then they would follow whatever the Board of Commissioners actually has. So, and I believe pretty much every department has its own travel policy, and that's the ones that that we go by when things are submitted for reimbursement.
Do the
So-
majority of them have the 51 cents or go with whatever the federal rate is?
The common language that we see is that it just follows the federal rate.
Okay.
Because instead of changing it from
changes
year
all the
to
time.
year, which it does, it's easier to say what IRS says, and that's what everybody follows. And I think that's pretty much across the board. Okay?
Okay. Well, I would be willing on this apiary inspector to reduce it to the 37 cents and then possibly look into it further with the other departments once we get all the answers, questions answered.
Can we amend that? Should I second the amended part? Or should I withdraw my first on the original motion?
You can amend that.
Make a motion to amend it.
Right.
I'll make a motion to amend it to 37 cents per mile.
I'll second.
Okay.
Anything further?
Nope.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Issuance and sale of notes in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $5,180,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay cost of improving highways, roads, streets, and bridges located in Lorain County together with all necessary appetances thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Under Children and Family, advertise request for proposals to provide direct child abuse prevention services for fiscal year 12. Notice in the Chronicle on February 24th and March 3rd. Bid opening at 2 p.m. on March 18th. Technical assistant meeting on March 10th at 9:30.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, question. Do we have to go with the newspapers like the Chronicle or the Journal?
Yes.
Or can we, there's no electronic form that we can do this on?
Well,
Or-
we do electronic form also, but because of state statute, if you want to call it by code, we have to advertise.
We're
Yeah, we take-
required to, and I think the wording says something about the local of general circulation. I wish they would change that, but.
Well, it is in the House right now.
I was
to
going to
try to
say,
get it down.
I do believe there is some proposed legislation to allow it to be done in a different fashion.
General circulation, is that defined by number of households or?
I'm not sure, the wording is pretty elusive. Jerry, you're a little bit more familiar, I think, with this than
No, it's not, there isn't any specific definition as to number of households. It generally talks about circulation in the general vicinities and areas that hits the entire county.
One of the things we did a couple of years ago is, they used to advertise in both
Right,
newspapers.
that's what I was gonna say.
And we started, think-
Rotating back and forth.
I don't know what tickle you keep, but you kinda,
I just go back and forth.
okay.
I mean, like this week, do we have 2 on the agenda? Next week we'll have 2. So one's in the Journal, one's in the Chronicle. I mean, I'm sorry. I just go back and forth. So like next week, one will be in Journal, one will be in the Chronicle, and so on and so forth.
Well, actually, we have 2 this week. We have this request
Oh,
for
do
the
we have
Families
2?
Council, and then we have Community Development.
Yes, we
Notice
do,
in the
so-
non-legal section of the Morning Journal, under number
Right.
17. So,
And I also try to look to see, depending on what we're advertising for, what area that is in the county. So if it's more southern, it's going in the Journal. If it's more northern, it's going in the Chronicle.
You mean
Just-
opposites?
Yeah, opposite. But
Well, no, I was just wondering, I know there are some other newspapers that cover the southern part of the county, just from advertising that would actually be cheaper. So
yeah.
I didn't know if we could utilize those newspapers as well.
it would probably have to be an additional
Additional
because of
to what-
covering enough, which
Yeah.
would be your circulation question, reaching out to the most people.
Right.
So depending
Yeah,
on
like
bids and
something
such.
like
Can you imagine how much money we'd save if we didn't have to advertise for the sheriff's
Yes.
sales every Friday? I
Right.
mean, the pages and pages of sheriff's sales in the
I mean, are
paper.
you talking like the press and the urban and all that? Those
Yeah.
kind of ones?
Yeah, I know like certain ones reach up to like 22,000 homes and that.
Only
so.
because it's not general circulation throughout the whole county, some of those papers. That's why we can't do it.
Okay. Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome.
So there's always a reason.
Yeah.
Well, I want to
But
know
keep
the
asking
reason.
those. You
Well,
never
we
know.
We are pushing, I mean, as Clerks Association, we are pushing to get that modified where we can do 50% in the papers and online, the rest of it. So,
Yeah, eventually it should be all online.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
aye.
Under Community Development, approve the semi-annual revolving loan fund for periods July 1st through December 31st, 2010.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Published a notice in the non-legal section of the Journal to request for qualifications to complete the Black River Watershed Action Plan.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under Golden Acres, approve and enter in a professional services agreement with Plant and Moran, PLLC Cleveland, to provide Medicaid and Medicare cost reports for a year ended December 31st, 2010, in the amount not to exceed $8,400 plus out-of-pocket expenses. Authorized director to execute on behalf of the board with prosecutor's approval as to form.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under Solid Waste, approve the request from Lorain County Veterans Services for 20 refurbished computers to be distributed to the unemployed veterans with a proven financial need so they can conduct a more thorough search for meaningful work.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes. We are wanting to give away 20 computers to the Veterans Services, and they will be awarding them to deserving veterans that need those computers in their homes to look for jobs and find work. These are refurbished computers coming back from RET3 Job Corps in Cleveland, Ohio, our contractor. And they'll be going to these veterans if you approve this today.
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
So moved.
Second,
I had a question for you.
Sure.
Is there any way they can also get internet service at a discounted rate from other?
That's up to the veterans.
It's up to the veterans on
administration.
that?
Yeah, they manage that portion of it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under Sanitary, issuance and sale of bonds in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $1,560,000 for purpose of paying property owners' costs in anticipation of collection for special assessments heretofore lived of improving Lorain County General Sewer District by constructing a sanitary sewer along Marks Road, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving and authorizing signing and delivery of a final term certificate, a bond purchase agreement, bond register agreement, and continuing disclosure agreement.
Any comments, Mr. Carney, or?
No, this-
This is the Mark Sewer project from 7 years now.
Yes, it is.
It's finally being completed and going to bond.
And we have the develop agreements in place, and the couple things for the board. I did spend a few hours in another rating presentation. In order to reduce some of the cost, we've been using 2 rating agencies. we were using Moody's and Fitch's. We started using both in the, I want to say around 2001, because Fitch's was rating the port authorities at the time, and we thought that a strong county relationship with them made some sense, and it helped our fledgling port authority because the port was supported by the county. This go-around, I didn't use Fitch's. I simply used Moody's. These rating presentations cost about $10,000. It's usually rolled into the proceeds of bond issues and so forth. But Fitch's is no longer rating port authorities. While it's clearly nice to be rated by both, because the issuance was a little smaller than we thought, we went with Moody's. I don't know how Fitch is going to feel about that, because we've been doing both for a long time. But Moody's is actually the premier rating agencies. And I think I told the board that with regard to the Port Authority, while we're trying to position the Port Authority to get rated, we want to develop a relationship with Standard & Poor's. That's now rating port authorities in Ohio, and I want to start moving in that direction. But we weren't prepared yet to present a strong plan, and I didn't think that spending money getting rated on this bond issuance to Standard & Poor's was necessary right now. So I just want to let you know about a couple of those changes, because Fitch's has put us on a, they downgraded us once, and then they put us on a negative outlook. And I didn't want anybody to think we didn't go back to Fitch's because of that. The reason we didn't go back was that we're just moving in different directions. During the presentations, I thought that we made a strong case with Moody's for the changes that we've made beginning late last year and moving into this year, and some of the things that we anticipated happening. Clearly, they're watching what's going on in Ohio. We talked about a lot of issues with regard to the state, what changes may happen there, and how they would influence the decisions in Lorain County. I believe we're going to get a strong report on the things that this board is doing. It should be out, I hope, by this Friday. And I'll send that to you, and we can take a look at it from there. But you know, everybody's cautious right now with bonding and ratings and things with regard to governmental entities, and we're no stranger to that. That's just my update on that, and I'll have more for you next week.
Thank you. So moved.
Second.
Anything further? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Under the engineer, authorize posting of load limit signs that state weight limit reduction by 25% on various Grafton Township roads for the thaw and moisture period in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 5577.07, effective retroactive February 1st through May 1st, 2011.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Award contract to Henkel Farms in the amount of $53,185.50 for Quarry Road Culvert 0565 replacement in Bryan and Wellington Township. 16 bids were received on February 16th, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications. Issue notice to proceed on or before June 24th. An estimate was $60,000. I left off a zero. And project will be funded in part with 89% OPWC, 11% local funds to be paid from the Bridge Engineering Project account, and authorize county administrator to notify the auditor to release retainage at completion of project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Authorize payment to Huntington Bank in the amount of $295,753.08 from the bond retirement fund to pay down principal and interest on the highway improvement notes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Certify the annual county highway system mileage in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 4501.04 for 2010. Mileage for 2009 was 269.698 miles.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Approve the Stormwater Advisory Committee bylaws and appoint various members.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr.
Yeah,
Kayla?
no, I may have missed this. Were the bylaws and the members in there, or is this?
No.
Are we on number
It was
25?
added on, so I just
It was
looked at them
added on,
too.
Yeah.
The, is that the SWAC?
Yes.
The SWAC did meet. I thought we had a really, really great meeting the other
When
night.
did you meet? Thursday?
Thank you. Thursday, we met for almost an hour and a half, but we met before the township trustee meeting, and it was decided that we will try to meet before the township trustee meeting because it's a busy day for most of the folks that that are going to be on the SWAC, and they thought it would keep things organized for them. I actually thought we had a really fantastic meeting. Understand that Mark McConnell also gave a very positive report at the Township Trustees meeting of what we presented with them and how we presented it and the things that were there. And this is the organizational structure and bylaws and things for the SWAC and how it'll operate as an advisory group going forward. There's a lot of work to be done. Jerry, you may want to come in on any comments with that. You did a lot of speaking there yourself.
Really have anything additional to add? I think we're moving forward, and our plan is to meet on the third Thursday at 5:30, and we're eventually going to move towards trying to go out to the township and meet in different locations in the township so we can be more accessible to the public.
We have a very strong group. It's going to be we have a lot of challenges, and we have a very challenging group of very strong individuals. I'm looking for some really great outcomes.
Thank you.
Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Cortez, County Administrator?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I want to make a huge congratulations to the Lorain Community College for their innovation fund being modeled for a national program. I also want to congratulate the Board of Commissioners because without GLIDE and the work that GLIDE did to build the infrastructure so the innovation fund could be accomplished, it wouldn't be there today. I received a personal correspondence from Dr. Church asking me to pass that along to the partners, that it was all the early foundation work and building that we did that brought us to next levels to where to be able to do the innovation fund. If you remember, we spent years through GLIDE and the College Foundation working towards the IRS rulings that allowed that type of programming. And then the Innovation Fund was an offshoot of GLIDE that started receiving a lot of attention, and it got a lot of seed money initially from the College Foundation, then a lot of our strong community supporters, and then eventually Edison funds and et cetera. To have the president here and to be modeling that local initiative and to be talking about the national program that's going to be mirrored off of that, I think is a great success for our community college. Is a great success for the leadership of the community college, and a great success for the partnerships with the various people and stakeholders in Lorain County, which include the Board of Commissioners and include you folks here. I think it's a proud day for all of us, and they're doing a great job, and Clyde's doing a great job, and Innovation Fund's doing a great job, and the Growth Partnership's doing a great job, and you know, a lot of times people don't know how those dots connect, and the interlacing of those. As I told Dr. Church yesterday, without the partnership and mentorship and relationships that have been forged over now going on decades, some of these things wouldn't be possible. So my congratulations to them, and I just wanted to share that he asked me to share that with the Board of Commissioners. I don't have any additional comments this morning. Thank you.
Mr. Innes, Assistant County Prosecutor?
Commissioners, I do have one matter of imminent litigation that I discussed with you before, and it has not yet become pending litigation, but I'm advised by counsel for the other side that it is more imminent than it has been before. So I need to discuss this in executive session.
Commissioners report.
Well, yesterday I stood in for Commissioner Kalo. I met with the mayors and police chiefs from Lorain and Elyria and Sheriff's Committee, Brian Frederick from the Community Foundation regarding the consolidation of the cities and county 911 dispatch operations and possible record retention. They are going to be going to their boards to ask for grant money to do a study on the cost savings of doing this and also the efficient way of implementing a program like that. The way we were figuring it, it's usually around about a 25% reduction in cost, mostly in salaries. But by the time 2 or 3 years comes around, hopefully most of those employees will be taken care of through layoffs and such, or not layoffs, but I mean retirements. So hopefully there won't be any layoffs. That's my hope. So the other thing is there will be a rally here across the street on Thursday at, I believe, 12 o'clock and at 4:30 in Lorain at City Hall regarding House Bill 5. And I do have a resolution I'd like to bring forth, and I will read it. Whereas Ohio passed its collective bargaining law more than 25 years ago, and whereas Senate Bill 5, if passed, will severely hurt the working families of Ohio by reducing their rights in the workplace, by ending Ohio's current collective bargaining law as we know it, and whereas this union-busting bill would strip many employees, including city, county, state, firefighters, police officers, sheriff deputies, auto workers, and teachers of their collective bargaining power, and as an assault on workers, potentially endangering public sector employees, unions, or not, and whereas the bill would strip collective bargaining rights for workers, eliminate salary raises based on tenure, and replace it with merit-based salary raises, ban negotiating health care plans, eliminate binding arbitration, and would allow public employees to hire permanent replacement employees who strike. And whereas by directly undermining our public servants and critical slice of Ohio's middle class, these measures carry long-term consequences that dramatically and negatively impact the state, its workforce, its economy, and the fabric of its communities, and could implicate employees working for less than minimum wage. And whereas Senate Bill 5 will not create jobs that are needed in Ohio, it will not save money for the ailing state budget, but it will create lower wages and layoffs. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we, the Lorain County Board of Commissioners, stand with the middle class and working families of Lorain County by urging our senators to vote no on Senate Bill 5. And for those of you, Gail Manning is the person that your state senator that you would need to contact if you would like to call her and ask her to vote no. And her phone number is area code 614-644-7613. So I would ask my fellow commissioners to support me on passing this resolution to vote no on Senate Bill 5.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Yes, please. I may as well go into my report if you don't mind, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
This ties into Friday, our County Commissioners Association board meeting. Governor Kasich addressed us. It was pretty exciting dialogue. 35 county commissioners and/or county council people there discussing with the governor the Senate Bill 5. He did explain to us that this isn't his collective bargaining legislation. He will be bringing down his own. It wasn't ready as of Friday. He has endorsed Senator Jones's proposal so far, and I believe at this point there's some negotiations still going on. I don't believe in anybody's mind they would ever be able to pass legislation that looked like this. Our committee voted on certain pieces of the policy, and most of the votes were 18-17. We had to do roll calls. Pete Gherkin from Lucas County, Nick Castanderas from Summit County, Paula Brooks from Franklin County, who are all members, had some very good dialogue they brought up, especially coming from the really large counties where some of these issues would be taking away local control from the Board of Commissioners or mayors in municipal employees to do any negotiations. And it was a very cordial conversation, but it was, you could see the two different areas of where people were arguing at, where they stood at. The bill as it sits now is a very poor bill. It takes local control away from us as county commissioners to do negotiations and to work with our employees to perform services. I will say the way it looks, it is busting up the unions, and Governor Kasich said collective bargaining is going to pass. It may not be this bill, but they're going to pass some type of reforms. And that didn't get a whole lot of hair on everybody's necks up, but there were certain, it looks like it's open for some discussions to where Governor Kasich says that I'm giving you the tools because you're gonna suffer cuts. So you've got to be able to open your bargaining contracts. And as we tried to explain, we believe that we'll be able to do that with most of our bargaining units, or we have to do it through the balance of budget layoffs. We're looking at $6 to $8 million as we spoke. So as this bill currently passes, it's not a very good piece of legislation. It takes local control away from us as commissioners. And one of our arguments with the governor was, and in the white papers we submitted, because he did meet with half a dozen of our commissioners at 5:30 that evening. I wasn't one of those who was present in his office, but there has to be a point where we find a middle ground. We can't do a 180 on everything in government because not everything's bad, and even though that's the posture that public sector is destroying the economy, I don't think any of us really believe that inside, but there could be 45 and 90-degree adjustments to everything we do on both sides of the table. So hopefully, as things work forward, this will get shot down, and whatever they want to give us as our tools to work here, they will free up other legislation and get rid of the unfunded mandates to let us do our jobs here with the monies we have without them deciding in Columbus, and a lot of them not having local government funding experience working here close, that they'll give us the ability to do what we've got to do. So yeah, I support this bill and getting rid of Senate Bill 5 totally.
Thank
Okay,
you.
well, I guess I'll be the opposition.
Right.
I believe that the collective bargaining law needs to be brought into line with the National Labor Relations, and I believe that we need to allow our state reps and state senators go through and vote this, and it shouldn't be anything from the county commissioners, so I'm going to vote against it.
Can I question, is it shouldn't be any influence from the county
Well,
commissioners or a direct
no.
arm of state government?
Well, we should have, we should be able to question things that are going to affect us, but I do believe that, again, the collective bargaining law does need to be brought back in to meet the federal requirements. So I'm
No
gonna,
offense, Commissioner Williams, no offense meant, but have you read through the entire bill and what it takes away from local government when it comes to making decisions?
have I read through the entire bill?
Yes.
No, I have not
Okay, well,
read that.
that's where you've got, the details, you know, you gotta look at that. So as you look at how the bill is currently presented, it takes a lot of our ability to negotiate and come up with fair, because any bargaining is done with both sides either, both unhappy at the end of the day, which is probably true bargaining.
Right.
Because I don't think anybody's ever happy at the end of it, but to take local control away from us and be, again, mandated by state government how we're going to conduct our business, that then spills over into every other part of government. It's sort of like when you give up the first piece,
Mhm.
and then they start to take the rest. You know, you offer your hand, they take your arm at the end of the day. We've
Right.
got to make sure that whenever this comes through, and the County Commissioners Association has said, we are not special interest, we are a direct arm of state government. We're not out there, you know, toiling for oil or steel or whatever other entity is out there. We're out there because we have to perform certain services. And even though we agree that everything can be adjusted, there's nothing that's all right or all bad about any of the legislation. I agree there's got to be a compromise from the County Commissioners Association standpoint and county commissioners in general. When you give us unfunded mandates or you give us rules that we have no flexibility on, we then lose the ability to govern, which is our job to govern locally. So I mean, that's where my argument is. Senate Bill 5, I believe there's going to be some collective bargaining reform and or changes. As
Right.
Governor Kasich said, he's going to be introducing his own bill for this. But in regards to Senate Bill 5, its piece of legislation, this is a piece of legislation that will handcuff us as county commissioners. Unless you want the state just to run the county, again, that's your personal preference on how you want to govern. I
Well-
believe us as county commissioners, we should have the ability under law to have some flexibility on how we're going to run our local governments.
Well, I don't believe that they're going to run the county,
If you read
first of
some of the
all.
legislation, it
And but-
gives a mandate.
I have spoken to representatives who have also been county commissioners as well. And going through and reading the State House report is what I'm basing my decision on that. I mean, we could sit up here and we could debate this for
Oh,
hours.
it's a debate,
and
that's all it is.
And right now, my view is that the Ohio collective bargaining law does need to be brought in line with the National Labor Relations. And no disrespect, but I just will not support this right now. I believe it's on this issue. I'm going to allow the state reps and the senators to vote on this. And to your point, I don't believe it is going to pass. I think it's going to come out with a different bill, but I won't support it.
Roll call.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
No.
Oh, you
Your
took
report's
over
so,
my
Commissioner.
report.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean, but it was the time, I might
I
as well
know,
talk
I
about what we
Guys, run the
did.
poor lady over up
Now,
there.
now you're in trouble because the other part of my report was I spent all day Saturday with the mayor of Sheffield Village, you know, the heart of Lorain County, and took my concealed to carry class. So you better watch out.
Uh-oh. Great.
Sherry took it, John took it. There was like 9 or 50% of the people in the class I knew, and we took our shooting on Sunday, outdoor range. It was freezing, but we were all good shots. So we're going to continue to call Sherry Ellie Mae, and now I have support of one of my dear friends who said if I did not take this class, he was not going to vote for me anymore. So that's the end of my report.
May my wife not take that class.
On that note, can I ask that the sheriff comes to these meetings?
I haven't gotten the permit yet. I have to give him a check and give him my application, and then I'll be legal. Yeah, I'm not allowed to bring the gun in here.
I
Good.
know.
Let me say
Can
that-
I bring my gun in
No, you
here?
cannot bring the gun in
Darn
a
it.
government building, okay? Now,
There's no courtroom in
didn't-
here.
Didn't you take the class?
I did, but I saw about having a courtroom.
Have you read the sticker on the door that
I
says
saw
no
the sticker.
firearms?
I saw the
Okay.
sticker.
I really hate to have to turn you in, Commissioner, so.
Well, if I have it concealed well enough, you won't know. I'm just teasing. I won't do that.
I bet you that's gonna be in the paper.
That's the end of my
Commissioner Kokoski
report.
has concealed carry.
That's right.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
She's twittering now.
okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Friday was, and to get past the Senate Bill 5 alone, Governor Kasich did bring his new development director, Kwame, there, and they did have some good dialogues how they'd like to see government going forward. And again, I think everything moving forward is in flux currently. I don't believe everything's going to be as radical as it's been presented. I believe there's going to be some semblance of sanity that we're going to be able to come to work with. And again, from the commissioner's point, which is what our entity is that some of the rules have to be loosened up for governments at the local level to adjust budgets. And as Larry Long said in his report this month in our county magazine, that it's not making other elected officials happy. Things that we're asking for as county commissioners. Because we do know we are going to have that $6 to $8 million shortfall in Lorain County government going into next year, which we have to start working on. And Governor Kasich didn't give us any indication of what the cut was going to be in local government fund, because we did ask the question. But under current rules and laws that we have, there's a part that we don't have any flexibility when it comes to funding, whether it's the judges being able to mandate their budgets, restricted accounts throughout county government that the commissioners have no ability to use to stopgap measures. And as everybody saw in the paper last week, came out, commissioners are talking about charging parking for their employees. It is one of the discussions on the table. Anywhere for part that I brought up, just sell the parking lots and let them all go to a private vendor and figure out what it's going to be. We don't have the dollars currently to maintain or repair our facilities. Sales taxes have been shot down. Another letter here we just got from the city of Elyria in regards to our detention home. We have until March 16th to fix. Jim, you saw this letter, I'm assuming?
I actually responded,
I didn't get a copy of that.
it was administrative.
Okay.
So I will tell you what my response was.
Well, can I tell them what the issue was?
Certainly,
In
Commissioner.
discussions with facilities needing improvements, detention home was given a report by the city of Elyria, Bureau of Arson and Fire Prevention. A group exit door at the end of hall will not release. Both exit doors exiting gym do not operate properly. Group 2 exit door facing the west does not open. Fire door and boiler room requires its annual inspection. They're giving us till March 16th to fix these issues. Or what do we do with the detention home? Now I can take your
Thank you.
answers.
I do have a very good working relationship with Doug Messer over at the courts. So I don't want it to appear otherwise. Doug did give me a call and a heads up on this, and as usual, I did respond that given the current budget constraints, the uncertainty of what we'll be facing in March, and that we're trying to collect enough dollars to be able to try to deal with the state issues that are going to be forced down on the local government, that he would have to find it in his current resources to deal with these problems at the detention home. Again, there's no argument going on between the court administrator there, but the realization is we're going to have to find innovative ways of dealing with these with current resources. They're working hard over there.
I know they are.
Everybody's
Every
working
department
hard
is working
everywhere.
hard, not questioning that.
And so I don't want to give any indication whatsoever that we haven't tried to partner on results and haven't had open dialogue. I know their request is legitimate. I don't particularly like our response. Our response is driven by the current conditions, not by not wanting to help them. So I just wanted to let you know that I have had that
I didn't bring it
dialogue.
off as a point of contention. I brought up as another issue we have when it comes to capital improvements. We're trying to find ways to deal with it. Right, Commissioner?
Yeah, I just thought something,
Why don't
like, do you
also-
want to charge the employees for walking through the doors to fix the doors like we want to do for, what you want to do for the parking deck?
Well, everything is for discussion at this point, Commissioner, I would think. Now, I mean, we gotta come up.
I
in the
mean,
next
you just
couple
said
months.
that our employees are working hard. They have taken a pay freeze for how many years now? They're paying more for their health insurance.
Without a doubt.
They're working an extra hour a day, every day.
Mhm.
And now we want to charge them for parking. I just don't feel that we should do that on the backs of our employees.
I'm not arguing your point in relationship to our employees, Commissioner. I am arguing the point, how are we gonna come up with these shortfalls and maintain our capital improvements if we are not generating any additional revenue? And I'll take suggestions from both sides, I mean, left and right.
Well, let me point out the one suggestion you can't have, because we explored this a few short years ago, is you don't have the discretion to close the detention home. So I
Thank
think,
you.
Jerry, Counselor, we went down that road a while back to look at options with regard to detention home, right? And I think we were provided some case law and things that indicated we had to fund a detention home. Is that fairly accurate?
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously the court can order us, but I don't think
I didn't mean
the
to put you on the
detention-
spot. I thought
well,
you
it's
worked
not
with-
mandated to the same extent that the jail is.
I actually thought council worked on this, but we were provided extensive information with regard to the detention home facility and once we had one, the funding that was required to be provided. Now, what level of funding is open for discussion, but that we had to provide funding to that. I'll pull that back up again.
And this isn't just about domestic, I'm talking about throughout the entire, I'm talking about throughout all of county government. We've slashed almost $13 million out of our budget the last 3 or 4 years. We're getting to the point, if there's no new revenues, we have to start making those decisions on how we're gonna continue county government, or what can just be discontinued at county government, so we can keep doing what we're supposed to do. That's the end of my report. I didn't mean to bring that up as causing an issue. It's just, it was in the papers. It's part of everything, whether it's selling the Golden Acres facility, selling the Green Acres facility, whatever might be possible to generate revenues, so. Because everybody's been calling about that too. What else are you selling?
Which one is that?
Oh, all of them. What else are you selling?
I have an extensive list of people that are inquiring about potential purchase of assets from the county. And
I had a
we're
phone call at
working on
home
that.
last night at 9:30 about a facility.
I think you called me on Sunday with some
Yes, I did on Sunday. I called you.
possible revenue generation solutions. But the folks are going to have to understand that when we dispose of assets, there's a long, drawn-out process that
Right.
we need to go through in order to satisfy the Ohio Revised Code due diligence. So we're working on those issues.
Did you also happen to get any of the information I asked for as to the amount of liability in that parking garage last week? Did you have time or no?
I'm still working on a lot of things with the parking garage and
Okay,
parking
sure.
in general.
Just
I mean,
ask.
here's one on solar parking meters and, trying to collect enough information so that we can make an informed decision and actually get the outcomes that we're seeking rather than just doing something and not getting the outcomes that we're ultimately seeking.
I don't want to make a knee-jerk decision, that in the end ends up costing us money. That's why I'm asking what our liability factor is and everything else, as Jerry had said to us, you know, if you charge, then you have a liability factor, and
Well,
right
there's,
now, it's,
when you do charge, there is a greater responsibility
Correct.
with regards to managing risk within the facility. How greater that is, that's probably open for legal interpretation. But it is, right now, you're not charging, so the responsibility is reduced. It's not completely eliminated, but it's reduced. Your due diligence goes up as you charge.
thank you, end of my report, Mr. Williams.
No report.
There was one thing that was brought up, regards to the West Shore Corridor Transportation Study. I had emailed you guys from Commissioner Blair.
Commissioner Blair, correct.
She wanted us to see if the board would approve the update of the alternative analysis phase 1 that was presented at the Community Alliance. This has to do with Sherrod Brown's offices accepting grant applications till this Friday. And in order to get this in, they would like to do that.
So moved. It doesn't cost the general fund any money. This is all outside funding.
As
Correct.
far as I know, correct.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, as long as this isn't a commitment to the project.
No, what it is giving you
It's
the
just a
ability
study.
to ask for.
Okay.
Grant
Aye.
money.
Board correspondence?
I move the reading be waived.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Public comment?
Anyone wishing to address the board? Good morning, Shirley.
Good morning. I have a couple of things I want to say something about. One, first I want to refer back to Mr. Williams' comment about, under, I guess it was requisitions about, or appropriations about, no, requisitions.
Correct.
About the criteria for giving money away, is the only way I can express it, because it was hard for us to hear you. I don't know what those amounts of monies are that you get requests for that somehow or other you decide to give it. But it does seem to me that there should be criteria for that, and there should be accountability. It shouldn't just depend on requests to different commissioners. Hey, we would like to have so and so much money for our particular organization, and so on. We didn't really know what entirely you were talking about, but I just didn't want to comment on that.
Can I respond to that first, Shirley? Or do you
Pardon me?
Can I respond to that one first?
Sure.
Okay. What that normally is, it's not a matter of giving money, it's basically it's basically an advertisement is what we're purchasing. It's not just giving money away. We're purchasing either space at an event, or we are in a program of some sort advertising what solid waste, and Keith could probably answer this better because we use a lot of the solid waste for that, where there is a mandate, you have to advertise what you're doing for recycling to attract more people to recycle. So it's advertised somewhere, and this is one of the entities through the Hispanic Conference with $250 out of our economic development, not promotional fund, but advertising dollars, and $250 through the solid waste department's advertising dollars to explain what county government does. So it's under certain large venue operations that we normally do that to.
And there's not many of them, Shirley.
No, there's only 3 or 4 or 5.
And are they the kind of amounts you just said, like 250?
That was 500 total for that particular
Okay.
expense.
Okay. And I do want to comment on the resolution that you differed on in relation to S-Bill 5. It's disappointing to me as a citizen that we have seen very little discussion on the tube or in the newspapers that I've seen locally that are objective about the matters that are in that bill. There is a reason for collective bargaining. There is a reason for tenure. There is a reason for being against merit pay under certain circumstances. And there are reasons for a variety of things on the side that you don't often hear. I was interested in hearing that resolution. It has words in it that I'm not particularly fond of, but in general, I would be for that resolution because I think there's not been a true analysis of an objective analysis of the harm that will be caused by the passage of SB 5. I'm old enough to have lived through the days before there were unions and remember the kinds of things that happened and how hard it was to get union representation in private industry as well as in other things. I was a member of the teachers union when I worked, and I saw the good things it was able to do for us and that we needed done for us. So I think people need to, I'm not pleading, well, I would be pleading for SB Bill 5 not to be passed in its present form, but I am pleading for people to be more objective about and really find out what some of the consequences would be of its passage.
Well, can I comment to that too, Shirley, while you're up there?
You don't have to ask me if you can comment.
Well, okay, well, I mean, just in discussion points, well, I didn't want you walking away. That's what the County Commissioners Association is trying to do. As I said, we're a direct arm of state government. Whatever they pass, we have to do. And Senate Bill 5 in its current form handcuffs us to a lot of mandates that we may not necessarily want. It doesn't say either or you may. It says you have to. And that's the bad part of legislation that gets passed. They're not giving us any flexibility. Then when we ask them for old legislation to give us flexibility, they're unwilling to change it because they're the parents and we're the children. They're telling us what we have to do. And from one side of it, I'm sure there's adjustments to collective bargaining can be done, and I'm not an expert on collective bargaining. But it's a two-sided, it's an agreement, a bargaining part, and going forward, as this current bill sits, there's got to be adjustments to it. They can't tell us this is what you have to go by, then forget the bargaining part of it. You have no tools in your bag anymore to negotiate with. You have to just follow whatever the state law tells you. And that's the problem. We have complained here, Lori and I have been here almost 7 years, 6.5 years, and every time a mandate comes down, we don't have a choice. That's why I stay informed and work with my state organization, so our dialogue goes back and forth, so those issues stay on the table. Hey, if you do this, here's what's gonna happen. As you said, an analysis, what happens either way? As they were talking, the new part is, and we did this through policy the other day at our meeting, that, okay, you have collective bargaining, you have a conciliating unit, a police, fire, dispatch. Well, you stay at the frozen contract, you have up to a 1-year cooling off period. It doesn't tell you what you can possibly do after that. It's got a lot of shortcomings. I think it's, as I said, a 180 reaction to some perceptions out there that this is what's making the world all screwed up, and it's deferring some of the real issues we have. So I think moving forward, I would hope, and as Governor Kasich did say, he'll have his own collective bargaining bill to bring down, it just wasn't ready last Friday, that it will be through a negotiation process, open and transparent, and everyone pleading their case of where this bill isn't the bill. So, you know, I understand where you're coming from, what you've said, and we have to have some ability at our local level to still continue our services that they mandate, but give us the ability also to negotiate and bargain properly so we can reach the outcomes they want at the end. And I don't think you can change one piece of legislation and fix all the problems in the world without causing a myriad of other ones because they haven't been looked at in a 60-day period. I mean, we haven't been 60 days into the new year and the new legislature, and all these changes are coming through, and I don't think anybody understands the rebound effect, what's going to happen if something like this were to get passed. And that's where, from our association, we're trying to inform them, here's what happens, here's what happens. You've got to give us that either or, shall or may. You can't tell us we are going to in any language and expect us to follow it. It just makes our job that much more difficult to accomplish anything.
Well, I think we understood what you were saying and what your objections are. I was just trying to, and I don't disagree with those, but what I was trying to do was put a broader perspective on the fact that we aren't really getting an objective picture of what the problems will be or the consequences. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, Elizabeth Rummix Oberlin. As part of the continuing education of Elizabeth Rummix, I would like to go back, this is a very simple question, go back to number 18, where it talks about professional services agreement, amount not to exceed $8,400 plus out-of-pocket expenses. What would be considered out-of-pocket expenses?
I would assume any travel.
Travel?
I would assume any travel. Is there anything else in that, Jim? Lodging?
We did vet the contract. There's no lodging, I believe, in there.
Okay.
It is clearly identified in the contract. I'm not sure if the clerk, she usually does have the contracts here, but I'm not sure we have that one. We've had that contract for a number of years.
No,
but
I just don't know what it means.
yeah,
I'm just
and
curious.
you know what, to be honest with you, I'm not gonna be able to give you definitive information. That's
Okay.
why I'm asking for the contract. I believe there, I hate to bring this up, but there is some travel reimbursement and things of that nature with regard to their activities.
And perhaps travel at 51 cents a mile.
It very well may. That's why I was a little reluctant to open that dialogue again.
Well, this isn't a general fund expense either, Elizabeth. This is out of Golden Acres. It's not general fund.
Right.
What that contract does for us, for clarification, is it allows us to maximize our reimbursement, medical reimbursement for our bed rates. We have to do certain cost analysis, and we have a very thin administrative staff at the home, and that's what the contract's for. It probably indicates, and I think it'll say travel in there.
Typically, Shirley, there's Elizabeth, there's provisions like that in services contracts, and it covers things like having to make costs of documents or expenses they need to acquire documents.
It's not line item in there. It says for all out-of-pocket expenses.
You know,
All
you know,
right, thank you.
if they have to render some kind of expense to obtain the information that they're using, you know, I see this as in regard to Medicare. I don't know whether they would have to get doctor reports or information like that, but I would expect with this kind of contract, it's expenses
Boilerplate.
they need in obtaining information that they need
Yeah.
to use.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, I did not hear Mr. Williams' report on the resolution read, or his answer on the resolution read by Commissioner Kokoski. Was it yes or no?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Commissioner Kokoski read a resolution having to do with the...
Senate Bill 5.
Pardon?
Senate Bill 5.
Yeah, thank you, Senate Bill 5.
No, it was a no, I'm sorry.
Your answer was no,
Yeah.
thank you.
You got that right, Teresa?
Yes.
Okay.
Pardon?
No, I was just making sure that the clerk got it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just going through the State House report of the county commissioners, reading that and talking with local reps on it. My feeling is, and going back to the Ohio collective bargaining law, it needs to be brought in line with the national labor relations. That's my reason for not supporting a no vote.
I appreciate Mr. Kalo's emphasizing the importance of what a state passes and its effect on county commissioners' ability to govern. I think that was rather clearly put, and so I do appreciate your making a point of that. The only other thing I would mention is that I would recommend to everybody that they read Paul Krugman's column, op-ed column, in the New York Times on Monday about the Wisconsin situation and its implications. I think it was a very clear argument about what is at issue there and what the implications will be, and I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Anything, Mr. Berner? Nice to see you here. President of Lordco? If not, motion to move an executive session is outlined by the county administrator and the county prosecutor.
I'll second.
Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
This has been a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda for a printable copy of the agenda.
How about a little trash talk about Lorain County Solid Waste Collection Center in Elyria? The Collection Center makes it easy for Lorain County residents with ID to get rid of stuff you don't want going into a landfill. Stuff like hazardous waste, acids, household bleach, oven cleaners, antifreeze, paint, herbicides. Take it to the Collection Center. It's a drive-through, so it's easy to get rid of scrap tires, even if they're on the rims. The Collection Center also takes e-scrap like computers and monitors, circuit boards, microwave ovens, smoke detectors, even household TVs up to 27 inches, no console models, fluorescent lights and ballasts, reference materials and books, fire extinguishers, all kinds of stuff. Drive through, drop off. Just don't bring curbside recyclables, explosives, medical waste, radioactive materials. For what's accepted and not accepted, visit loraincounty.us/solid waste. The Collection Center near Big Lots at 540 South Abbey Road in Elyria is a service of the Lorain County Solid Waste District, the Department of the Lorain County Commissioners.
Carpooling, a great way to save on fuel, tolls, and parking. Serving 13 counties, secure and safe Ohio rideshare makes it easy to connect with carpool partners safely. You control information shared. Discuss your destinations and needs through our safe site. Carpooling reduces pollution and traffic congestion, while it lowers stress and gives riders time to read, work, sleep, socialize. 1-800-825-RIDE or register online at ohiorideshare.com. Point, click, ride.
Pedestrian injuries represent the second largest number in motor-related deaths. In the current report by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, of the 812 traffic fatalities for children ages 5 to 9, almost one-third, that's 254, were pedestrian fatalities. These numbers were just very staggering to me in this office. Most of these were from pedestrian crossings. Children not educated in crossing streets where there are sidewalks and obviously stoplights, or where there are no sidewalks and there are stop signs. So basically, it was based on the fact that they aren't getting proper education, or they hadn't any education on how to cross streets with sidewalks or without sidewalks. So that's what really got us motivated to look into this and do something about it.
County Engineer's Office is quite proud to announce that the Safe Routes to School program has been initiated throughout Lorain County. We're very excited about this. To help these children from grades K to 4, teaching them to walk the streets safely is very important to us. We've seen statistics that quite frankly shock us. Many times we read and see stories of pedestrians being hit by automobiles in Lorain County, and it just tears my heart to see these children from K to 4 part of that. This program is to stop that, to help diminish those type of situations, and to educate these children on crossing the street safely. And we're quite happy to announce that.
Most of our workshop was developed and made in-house. Simulated sidewalks, simulated streets. We have actual working stoplights, the pedestrian crossing signs that actually work, operational railroad crossings. We also have the regular road signs like your pedestrian crossing, your stop sign, your railroad sign. So we have all of these different things that the children can not only visualize, but then we actually interact the children in those situations so they can not only see, but they can use these in their learning abilities on how to cross the streets with and without sidewalks. We've had so many good responses back from the children, and of course it's just like anything else with children. When you ask for volunteers, when you're talking in a group of 60 and you can only have 8, It's amazing at the hands that go up. You know, does anybody want to volunteer? Well, everybody wants to volunteer. We make them go over these skills that we're trying to teach them, not only the volunteers, but the group as a whole. So basically we have the whole class interacting. So if they say left, right, left, behind you, in front of you once, they say it at least 8 or 10 times before the workshop is over. So we've had many teachers and many principals tell us, and we even had one child that came up to us and said, you know what, Miss Spansky, we were going to cross the street the other day and we remembered, look left, look right, look left. So that was very rewarding. And so I think the repetition, the interaction with the children and with the items in our workshop is very important to them and to us. Before you even go into the safety part of it, they're in awe over the traffic light, and then our railroad crossing signals actually work. So they're just like, oh, ooh. And we get up there and we tell them, and we even give them some trick questions. You know, we'll say, well, we can see that train all the way down the track. Do you think we can make it, because you're fast and I'm fast and we can run? And of course they're very enthusiastic and no, we shouldn't do this. So we teach them that in some urban areas you will not have the gates that come down to keep you actually from crossing, that you may just have 2 sets of tracks, and just because one goes by and the signals stop doesn't mean that another one can't come from the other direction. So we tell them it's very, very imperative that they stay back from the tracks and they wait till those signals stop and to look both ways. And even once those signals stop, to look both ways, and they should never run across the railroad tracks. They should walk and continue to look both ways, because it's not safe and they could fall, they could injure themselves. If they're alone, if they're not with someone, it could be very dangerous, because not only could they injure themselves, they may not have help if there is a train coming, because they are so small. And as you know, some of those tracks are very large, and you're talking in kindergarten through 4th grade, some of those children are very small children. The main thing is that we tell them that only you know when it's safe. You have to make that ultimate decision. So make sure that you know that it's safe before you cross those railroad tracks or a street. One of the other things that we cover in the safety workshop, and it's also repeated in our video, children don't have that perception of the miles per hour. It's very dangerous. And the same thing with trains. We tell them that train could take, you know, forever. It's way down there, but we don't know the actual miles per hour. We decided to use videos. The first one is geared for kindergarten and 1st grade, and that is Otto the Otto, put out by AAA.
Hi, kids. A lot of times you have to walk to get to places. And when you're walking, you have to be especially careful of cars and bicycles. Oh no, those kids are walking the wrong way. That's dangerous. I'm going to talk with these kids. Down at the clubhouse, they're talking about the safe way to walk on streets without sidewalks.
I say you can walk across the street anywhere you want, as long as you look first. And don't get squished flat by a car. That's a fairly simple way of looking at safety. There are actual rules and laws for walking. Yeah, but the most important one is you don't get squished flat. Who's right, Maggie? Patrick or us?
I guess in a sense, everyone's right. The main idea is to get there safely, but there are some rules to help you get there safely, like don't run out into the street without...
The second video, we show 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, and it is put together by the National Safety Council along with Honda, and they developed the first humanoid robot.
Hey, Osmo. What's up, Osmo? How's it going? Osmo, this is Michael. Michael, this is Osmo.
How come you dressed in a robot suit? It's not a suit. I'm a real robot. My name, Osimo, stands for Advanced Step in Innovative Mobility. I'm the world's most advanced humanoid robot. I can walk forwards, backwards, and even climb stairs just like a human. So, what's the first rule about crossing the street?
Stopping at curbs.
Correct. First, always stop at the curb. Then make sure no cars are coming. You want to look left.
It's clear.
Then right to see if any cars are coming from the other direction.
That's clear too.
Cars move fast. There might already be a new car to the left. So look left again.
Car coming.
See what I mean?
Okay, he's gone.
Kids love this. They relate to Osimo as well as the younger children relate to Otto, who is an animated automobile. And he tells them about crossing streets. Osimo does the same thing, and he actually goes through with the children and tells them how to cross the street at an intersection with a traffic light, with the pedestrian crossing. He also teaches them how to cross because a lot of children at schools have parked cars. He goes over the issues of how to cross when there are parked cars. So he does a number of different things, how to cross the street when there are no sidewalks. So they both cover the basic skills. One is just geared a little bit more for the different age groups.
I think it was really nice because they had a real life robot talk to you about safety, and you got to actually do what he said was safe. He said when there are parked cars to make sure there are no drivers in before you cross the street.
It's a good idea because, like I said, the kids could walk through the whole process of crossing streets with the crosswalk, without a crosswalk, at the intersection. What happens if you're crossing in between two parked cars? Those are things that parents don't teach their kids. They go to Safety Town and they learn left, look right, look left again, and they go. And even my own son, who's a kindergartner, he just did Safety Town, and I still catch him flying across the street. And all I have to do is say, Matthew, remember Osimo? And he stops and he thinks and he does all the steps that he was taught in the video.
It was a great refresher, especially for them, now knowing, what to do and kind of even additional things that they may not have been told or considered before.
Most of the kids did their little safety program back when they were getting ready to go to kindergarten. They start out learning all those safety rules. Then as time goes on, if you don't reinforce those safety rules and keep telling them, just like we do as adults, we think we're safe. We don't have to follow those rules anymore. We can do what we want. We can take a chance and run across the road. And I think this program was very good at reinforcing the fact that even though we're growing up, we still have to be careful. We still have to follow the signs. We still have to follow the railroad crossings, especially around here in Amherst. We tend to have a little trouble with the railroad crossings and kids wanting to play on them. So I think it was a good review. I think it was done in a fun, learning way, and the kids really enjoyed it. We were very happy to have everyone here at St. Joseph's School.
In 2009, Mr. Carney felt that if we expanded the program and went into the technological era, that we could cover more schools and help more students. We felt that second, third, and fourth graders would get much more out of it and enjoy it if it was on a computer. We use one disc that's called Walk Smart for second and third graders. It teaches the children where to walk. It teaches them things that they should know about traffic signals. And the third part of it is watching for cars. The fourth grade disc is called Safer Journey. That is in a three-part section with a fourth part that's added called Library, so that if they want to go back in as fourth graders and actually look up anything that they just viewed, it will give them a description. Each one allows the student to interact on the computer individually.
Well, you move the mouse back and forth. Try it.
We thought the student will look at it, because they love to work on computers, so that they would look at it as fun and a game, and each student can work at their own level or at their own pace. Our response has been amazing.
They enjoy being on the computer.
So I think just by clicking and being able to listen and observe those things, it's more interactive with them. This program is teaching the skills of being more observant as they're crossing the street and being more aware of what's going on around them.
It makes me work harder. We have to guess if the cars can come from which way. Gets my brain on learning. It helps me learn how to cross streets and how to watch for cars.
You have to look both ways when you go across the street and everything, because it would actually teach me something.
You know, sometimes we just think that students know exactly where they should be walking. There's a sidewalk, and we know that they should cross at the light and look both ways.
It tells you what to do and what not to do in the street.
This just reinforces, because sometimes the students don't know all of those things. They haven't always been taught. They are much better off for being part of the program.
If it saves one life, we feel like we've made a contribution. It's our way to give back to the communities.
In 1787, the Continental Congress organized the lands from the Ohio River to the Mississippi into the Northwest Territories. In 1803, the first of these territories to become a state was Ohio. Ohio was in turn divided into various land grants, including the Connecticut Western Reserve in the northeast corner of the state. The Western Reserve included the area that is today Lorain County. As Ohio gradually increased its counties to the present 88, the land we know as Lorain County went through several changes. Until 1810, the area was split between Geauga and Portage counties. When the area was being organized into Lorain County in 1822, it was created out of land from Huron, Cuyahoga, and Medina counties. At the time of its birth, Lorain County included Olmsted Township, now in Cuyahoga County, Spencer and Homer Townships, now in Medina County, and Troy and Sullivan Townships, now in Ashland County. This map illustrates the county as it appeared at the time of Ohio's centennial, and although some of the townships have been absorbed by incorporation, it also represents the shape of Lorain County today. Let's take a brief historical look at each of Lorain County's 21 townships. In 1807, the Calvin Hoadley and Herman Bronson families of Waterbury, Connecticut, began the settlement of Columbia. After a 3-month trek, the pioneers arrived in their new homeland in time to celebrate Christmas. The Bronsons, including their 7-month-old son, began that winter sheltered by their overturned bobsled wagon, converted into a frontier lean-to. The mouth of the Black River also saw the beginning of its first settlement in 1807, when Azariah Beebe established a trading post for Nathan Perry. This area, which 20 years earlier had seen a short-lived Moravian mission, would gradually grow into the village of Charleston in the township called Black River. Years later, this township would be removed from county maps because of the incorporation of the city of Lorain. Charleston adopted the county's name of Lorain when the city was incorporated in 1874. The dramatic growth of the city was spurred on by the expanding fishing and shipbuilding industries. In 1894, when Tom Johnson brought his steel mill to town, Lorain's destiny to be the county's largest city was assured. In 1813, the township of Ridgeville was officially organized. 3 years earlier, members of the Beebe, Terrell, and Root families had established this new settlement they called Rootstown. The change to Ridgeville was decided upon to indicate the sand ridges that passed through the area and provided transportation routes and fertile farmland. The area around the intersection of Butternut Ridge and Roots Road, first called Briggs Corner, was by 1880 known as Fields Corners and was the site of the town's water well. With the growth of the city of North Ridgeville, the township of Ridgeville was incorporated out of existence. In 1810, Silas Wilmot, along with Asa and Ira Morgan, erected a cabin on Butternut Ridge, and the community later called Eaton Township was begun. Wilmot married Chloe Hubbard of Ashtabula, and they were given the cabin, thereby becoming the township's pioneering couple. When Ridgeville Township was organized in 1813, it included Eaton, which was at that time called Holbrook. While the area was still a part of Cuyahoga County, the township of Eaton was separated from Ridgeville. Its first officers were elected in 1823, while the township was in transition to the new Lorain County. Amherst's township's founding can be traced to one Jacob Shoup. After first settling on the Black River, he moved in 1811 to the Beaver Creek. By 1815, he had erected a grist mill and the area's first distillery. Whiskeyville, today the intersection of Routes 58 and 113, earned its nickname as a center for the production of this important pioneer commodity. As the primary community of the township developed at the Old Spring, it came to be known as Amherst Corners. By 1836, the name Amherstville was recorded in the county offices, and in 1873, the town was incorporated as North Amherst. In 1909, the U.S. Postal Service had to choose between the villages of North and South Amherst. They chose the former, which then became the official and present-day Amherst. In 1917, in the northeast corner of the county, the township of Avon became another of Lorain County's 21 townships to vanish due to city incorporation. In 1814, Wilbur Cahoon had arrived from Montgomery County, New York, to become the first to settle in what was then Troy Township of Cuyahoga County. The farming community grew around its power source, the French Creek. Development along the interurban line would incorporate the northern part of the township into the city of Avon Lake in 1911, with the remainder of the township becoming the village of Avon in 1917. It was families such as the Burrell, Day, and Roots who established themselves in the Sheffield area in 1815 and 16. The township of Sheffield would not actually be created until 1824, when the newly elected Lorain County Commissioners made the township one of the first acts of their administration. The land had been primarily in Cuyahoga County prior to the 1822 reorganization. The southwest corner of the township was in Huron County and is today the only place to find a small section still called Sheffield Township. The remainder of the area has been incorporated, like its neighbor Avon, with the north becoming Sheffield Lake and the south the village of Sheffield. In 1816, Colonel Henry Brown of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, purchased a large tract of land known as Number 6, Range 19. Mr. Brown would later name the township after himself by simply adding Helm to his family name. Like the Old Saxon Ham, the suffix meant home. The Deacon Shepherd family were the first settlers when they arrived on July 4, 1817. The village of Brownhelm Mills, located in Benjamin Bacon's Mill Hollow, was one of 3 communities to develop. Bacon's Corners, or the center, was 3 miles east of the hollow, while just west of the hollow was Rugby, where stores, a church, a school, and the post office were located. The first settlers to the Grafton Township area were Jonathan and Grendall Rawson in 1816. 10 years later, the Rawsons were forced to build a grist mill, or forfeit their land under their original agreement with the Western Reserve Land Company. Railroads and quarries were the greatest influence on the growth of the village the locals called Rawsonville. The quarrying industry in particular was responsible for the influx of French-Canadian, Welsh, Irish, Polish, and German immigrants. In 1877, When the village was being incorporated, the name Rawsonville was dropped in favor of the railroad station name of Grafton. Originally a part of Elyria Township, Carlisle was settled in 1816 by John Bacon of Windham County, Vermont. When the new Lorain County was being organized in 1822, Carlisle Township became its own entity. LaPorte developed as the township village with Phineas Johnson as the first postmaster and hotel owner. In 1840, Anson Brayman's Carlisle Nursery became the first of its kind in Lorain County. Quarrying was another important industry of the township, as the sandstone blocks were used for city buildings as far away as Toronto. Founding father Heman Ely owned over 10,000 acres of the land that would be developed into the township of Elyria, and the city, which also bears his family name. In 1817, Artemus Beebe headed a work crew that came to establish a new village at the Y of the Black River branches. Mills were constructed and the main street cleared. Beebe's crew also erected a home for Mr. Ely at Broad and East Bridge Streets, and a home for himself across the street, which became the Beebe Tavern. Both structures avoided demolition until well into the 20th century. In 1822, Mr. Ely spearheaded the movement to create Lorain County. He donated the land for the county courthouse, thus influencing the choice of Elyria as the county seat. Mr. Ely's little village would develop into a city with a varied industrial base as well as the center of government for Lorain County. Simon Durand came to America as an interpreter for Revolutionary War hero French General Lafayette. Durand remained in the new nation and in the winter of 1817 moved from New York State to the 160 acres he had purchased south of Brownhelm. 10 years later, the population of the area was enough to support the formation of a new township. With the southern portion ceded to Brighton and the northern portion annexed from Brownhelm, the township of Henrietta was created in 1827. Although New England families represented the majority of settlers to the area in 1818, one of the pioneers was William Welling of Montgomery County, New York. History is not clear if the community was named in honor of Welling or for the famous English Duke of Wellington, hero of Europe's recent Napoleonic Wars. With the coming of the railroad, Wellington grew into an agricultural marketplace, and in fact was the nation's leader in cheese production from 1870 to 1900. The county fair, now located in Wellington, helps to continue the depiction of small-town America shown in native son Archibald Willard's famous painting, The Spirit of '76. In 1818, Joseph Sage and the family of his son-in-law, John Laborie, journeyed through a severe winter from Connecticut to their new homestead in Huntington Township. More pioneering families came to the area, and by 1822, the population was such that the Medina County Commissioners incorporated the township using the Huntington, Connecticut hometown of many of the settlers as its new name. Lumber, grain, and cheese dominated the local economy. In 1824, when Lorain County came into full operation, Huntington was transferred from Medina County. The citizens of Old Russia Township, that had been first settled in 1818, requested detachment from Black River Township in 1825. The town and college of Oberlin were founded in 1833 and would grow to dominate the area. The Oberlin concept combined a Christian community and a Christian coeducational institute. Through the influence of founders John Shippard and Philo Stewart, New York businessman Arthur Tappan, and noted evangelist Charles Finney, the college would become not only co-ed, but also multiracial and the nation's leader in the abolitionist movement. The independent spirit that created the first Russia Township was evident once again in 1992, as New Russia Township detached itself from Oberlin. In 1820, the Peter Penfield family began the permanent settlement of the area he had first selected in the fall of 1818. Penfield Township's organizational election was held in April of 1825. The first religious service was held in 1826, and the first school was in session in the summer of 1829. The township's first post office put the emphasis on post and not the office. As the Penfields lived well off the established mail route, a hollow tree near the river was used by the local residents for sending and receiving the mail. The township, with its fertile soil, grew into a part of Lorain County's rich agricultural heritage. In the fall of 1820, Abner Loveland Jr. became the first permanent settler of Brighton. Within a year, the families of Joseph Kingsbury and Abner Loveland Sr. had arrived, and the new community began to grow. With elections held in the spring of 1823, Brighton Township was being organized at the same time the area was being transferred from Medina to Lorain County. Like much of the new county, Brighton was essentially agricultural. Although Pittsfield's first settlers arrived in 1813, the area was considered too dangerous because of the British and Indian activity connected to the War of 1812. By 1820, the land was surveyed, and Milton Whitney became the owner of a large parcel. Whitney arranged for the Waite brothers of Russia Township to become the first permanent settlers in the spring of 1821. By 1831, there were enough residents to request that the county incorporate a township independent of Wellington. Pittsfield was chosen as the township's name to honor the Massachusetts hometown of many of the area's pioneers. LaGrange Township's first settler was Nathan Clark, who in the fall of 1825 established his new homestead on the east branch of the Black River. By the summer of 1826, 14 more settlers had arrived. The name LaGrange, which is French for the farm, was chosen to honor French General Lafayette, as it was also the name of his country estate. In 1827, the area was separated from Carlisle Township and reorganized with elections in April into the new township of LaGrange. By 1875, the center had grown into a village, also incorporated as LaGrange. The pioneer settler of the Camden area was Leonard Clark. Over the next 4 years, other families moved into the area, including Roswell Babcocks, who built the first frame house in 1833. Early on, the area was divided between Henrietta and Brighton townships. In 1835, the new township of Camden was created by the county commissioners, and the first elections held in April of 1836. When the first post office was established in 1835, the community was called Panelise. The name was changed to Camden, then later to North Camden. In 1852, the Lake Shore and Michigan Southern Railroad called its station Binghamton, but that was soon changed as the town adopted the name Kipton. Kipton's more important connection to the railroad was a tragic collision in 1891. The wreck was instrumental in the creation of standardized or railroad time. Rochester was the last township within the present-day boundaries of Lorain County to be settled. Stephen Babcock brought his family from Massachusetts in the spring of 1832 to settle on land he had prepared the previous year. The area grew quickly, and by 1835, the commissioners formed a new township with the first elections held in April of 1836. The township's farming and related businesses grew with the population. By 1880, close to 700 citizens lived in the area. The population shifted from Rochester Center to Rochester Station when the Big Four Railroad came through the township. The small-town boom would turn to bust when the railroad eliminated Rochester as a scheduled stop. The depot would be used as a schoolhouse, as the home of the Rochester Rod and Gun Club, and today as the home of the Rochester Historical Society.
How about a little trash talk about Lorain County Solid Waste Collection Center in Elyria? The Collection Center makes it easy for Lorain County residents with ID to get rid of stuff you don't want going into a landfill. Stuff like hazardous waste, acids, household bleach, oven cleaners, antifreeze, paint, herbicides. Take it to the Collection Center. It's a drive-through, so it's easy to get rid of scrap tires, even if they're on the rims. The Collection Center also takes e-scrap like computers and monitors, circuit boards, microwave ovens, smoke detectors, even household TVs up to 27 inches. No console models, fluorescent lights and ballasts, reference materials and books, fire extinguishers, all kinds of stuff. Drive through, drop off. Just don't bring curbside recyclables, explosives, medical waste, radioactive materials. For what's accepted and not accepted, visit loraincounty.us/solid waste. The Collection Center near Big Lots at 540 South Abbey Road in Elyria is a service of the Lorain County Solid Waste District, the Department of the Lorain County Commissioners.
Carpooling, a great way to save on fuel, tolls, and parking. Serving 13 counties, secure and safe Ohio rideshare makes it easy to connect with carpool partners safely. You control information shared. Discuss your destinations and needs through our safe site. Carpooling reduces pollution and traffic congestion, while it lowers stress and gives riders time to read, work, sleep, socialize. 1-800-825-RIDE or register online at ohiorideshare.com. Point, click, ride.